Headlines like this about Dick York are emotionally powerful, but they often mix truth with exaggeration, and in this case the phrase crippled, broke, and homeless does not accurately describe the full reality of his life or death. What is true is that Dick York experienced severe and long-lasting health problems that deeply affected both his career and his finances, but the way his story is sometimes told online removes important context and turns a complicated human life into a simplified tragedy narrative. York's difficulties began with a serious back injury sustained during the filming of They Came to Cordra, when he was working in physically demanding conditions and suffered damage that would never fully heal. Over time, this injury led to chronic pain that became a constant part of his life. During his later acting years, especially while starring as Darren Stevens on Bewitched, the pain grew worse and increasingly difficult to manage. He continued working despite it, but eventually the condition forced him to leave the show, marking a major turning point in both his career and personal stability. After leaving Bewitched, his opportunities in Hollywood became limited. Combined with ongoing medical issues and the cost of treatment, this created financial strain. It is fair to say that he lived more modestly in his later years and faced economic hardship compared to his earlier fame. However, describing him as homeless is not accurate. He did not spend his final years living on the streets. Instead, he lived privately, often supported by his wife and family, while dealing with declining health. His medical condition continued to worsen over time. Along with his back injury, he later developed emphysema, which significantly affected his breathing and mobility. These combined health issues made daily life increasingly difficult and limited his independence. Despite this, he remained known for his resilience and his efforts to maintain dignity while coping with long-term illness. York also spent part of his later life involved in quieter, more personal forms of work and support, including charitable and community-related efforts when he was able. He was not living in isolation or abandonment, as some viral versions of his story suggest, but rather in a reduced and private lifestyle shaped by health limitations rather than total destitution. When he passed away in 1992 due to complications from emphysema, his death reflected the culmination of years of illness rather than a sudden collapse into homelessness or extreme poverty. The emotional weight of his story comes from the contrast between his early success and his later health struggles, not from the exaggerated idea that he was abandoned or left without support. What makes his story genuinely heartbreaking is already clear without adding dramatic distortion. He was a talented and beloved television actor whose career was cut short by injury, and who lived for many years dealing with chronic pain and illness that limited his opportunities. But the more extreme version of his story, often shared online, removes the people who stood by him, the reality of his living situation, and the complexity of his later life. In the end, Dick York's legacy is better understood as one of early success, physical suffering, and personal resilience rather than sensational tragedy. His life was difficult in many ways, but it was also real, human, and far more nuanced than the simplified viral headlines suggest.